So little frizzy in it. Let's tone down the frizz just a touch. Oh, wonderful, 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 wonderful. Funk-inspired anthemic glam metal? I think I'll just stick to calling it hair rock for now. They labeled it as a funked up fairy tale. This is Extreme 2. Pornograffiti. Released in 1990 through A&M Records. This album went double platinum and had 2 singles charting the top 5. Built upon the back of Nuno Betancourt's shredding guitars and Gary Leary's decadent drums. This American band sing-shouts their way all the way through an elaborate, epic rock extravaganza. Starting things off with decadent dance, it builds with a thunderstorm accompanied by some soft, slow piano that builds up to this Kiss-inspired rock song that talks about consumer culture. Full of energy, simply hard rock, and really catchy. The major complaint that I have about this song and most of the songs on this album are they just go on too long. This album is 64 minutes long and only has about 13 tracks on it. Oof, takes me back to that CNC Music Factory album. Thankfully this one's got a lot more behind it, more energy, more dynamicism, lots of different ideas being presented here, but an overarching, super fun, super fast, hard rock, hair rock. I do believe the band realized that a non-stop hair rock album is something that might wear a few people pretty thin. So they do break this album up about every quarter of the way through with a totally different, divergent genre attempt. Lil Jack Horny is a gnarly track combining sex euphemisms with nursery rhymes. It's a track that confronts the laissez-faire attitude of boys will be boys. Instrumentally, it's a little slower with more of a country rock feel to it, even a bit of a pop rock feel. Nuno's guitars are by far the best part of this track and pretty much the whole album, but he even arranged a horn section to accompany this one to make it a way funkier feeling jam. Besides the random fade out and fade back in of the horns right at the end, this track is one of the only ones that doesn't really overstay its welcome, I think. Moving on to the track When I'm President. It starts you off with a corny little Beastie Boys homage rap that turns into more of their standard rock instrumental style, but the vocal delivery just seems a little awkward on top of this one. It's a fun concept that's poorly executed, so they pick things back up for the simpler, straightforward, right to the point, get the funk out. If you don't like what you see here, get the funk out. This one's so fun, so simple, so catchy. It's by far my favorite. But if you do have a faint memory of the band Extreme, it's probably because of this next song, More Than Words. This is the first major stylistic change-up on the album with a soft, acoustic love song. This gorgeous track is something reminiscent of what you might even find on the White Album. I almost expect Sufjan Stevens to start singing over top of those introductory acoustic chords, being totally different than any of the other music I'd heard on the album so far. Just showcases the vocal talents on this band beautifully, and the harmonies and everything just mesh so nicely together. This is one of those tracks that can totally transcend the sound of an entire band. And with how popular it was, it probably did. They make an appropriate shift from the themes of love onto the track Money, In God We Trust. This one's got a similar attitude to the closing track, Wholehearted, but with more of those ripping fast guitars that are on the rest of the LP. Gary Cheroni's vocals on this one sound just like Phil Collins, and the lyrics are undeniably at least a little Pink Floyd inspired. And this one gets the album back up on its feet, rocking and rolling forward, and moves on to the song It's a Monster. More Kiss vibes on this one. It's about the monster inside of us that turns us into sinners. Maybe it's more broadly speaking about addiction, or maybe it's just talking about a hormone monster. Probably the latter, because it's followed up nicely with the track that opens up with just the one shouted word, sex! This is the title track, Pornograffiti, and it's one that lets the instruments open up and take their space before it really gets rockin'. I think the vocals are great on this song, but it does devolve back into just a instrumental jam sesh for a couple minutes before they come back in with the chorus to finish this one off. Justified in their claims that at the end of this song, sex sells, their most popular hit ever was a love song, and of course the obvious inclusion of porn in the title of their album. This one eventually reaches a thunderous peak accompanied by more sex, sex. A funny song, a funny title for an album, a great album cover, a bunch of things that'll make me pick up your random CD from my thrift shop. Every time I get comfortable rocking out, my hair's flying, the band does a full 180 and jumps back to a love song on me. This is a track I forget is even on this album, that it's so out of place. It's a 50s style, piano and bass backed, classic feeling love song, with even a reference to Sinatra. It's beautifully done, but just really out of place. So back again with the fast, funky hair rock, Susie Wants Her All Day. What? Another song that compares sex with childish things. This time it's Sugar. Susie Wants Her All Day Sucker is the line that leads into Susie Wants Her All Day what? Super fun, another catchy one, but really just serves as a song to get the album up and rolling again, and moves quickly on to He-Man Woman Hater, a convoluted track that if you're not listening to it correctly, it sounds like Female Woman Hater. Totally confusing. I don't want to read into it. It is kind of fun and catchy, but besides the classic hair rock feel, there's not a whole lot new happening here. As rockable as it is, it goes on too long. It's probably because it's the last time they get to truly rock out on this album before this sort of corny, sing-songy song before the closing track, Wholehearted. And just before I get into that track, all I have to say about the previous track to it is its name, Song for Love. With a name like Wholehearted, I'll add the spelling here so you know what I mean. It's actually a pretty heartful song. It tells a great lyrical story about losing touch with God. It's got fast driving drums and a guitar that sounds Simon and Garfunkel-y. This is an excellent amalgamation of sounds and ideas that still holds up 30 years later. And as the album thunderstorms away, I thank Extreme for this wonderful project. I'd basically written off any band that looked like these guys did still in the 90s, but I'm glad they had an interesting cover and a fun little fairy tale for me to embark on, because what a unique adventure this album is. Listen to it down below. Subscribe right here. Like the video, share it around. Rock on, everybody. Rock on! If you don't like what you see here, get the funk out! Get the funk out! Get the funk out!